right, so let's dive into Songhai here. So Songhai, for your base core set is actually going to be really good. A lot of these cards are actually going to be utilized even in the later good decks in Songhai as you develop your deck. So they have a really good strong base. The only card you're really not going to end up playing is Widowmaker. Now Widowmaker is kind of suffers from the same thing that a lot of range minions currently do in Duelyst. It's a 2/3 that costs 4, and mainly the core value is the problem. I mean, they're very fragile by nature, range minions, so they're super value if you can keep them alive. However, there's a lot of things like Dispel or just straight up burn, like a Phoenix Fire, that for 2 core can clear out your 4 core. So the thing you want to be careful with, and a trap a lot of new players end up when they run a Widowmaker, is they spend like all their cores on placing this Widowmaker, but they end up with this really fragile unit that could easily be picked off, and then they play like a Phoenix Fire, but then they play their own Kaido Assassin, right? So you lose board advantage out of it more often than not. So it's a card you kind of want to avoid when playing the faction in general. And if you want a range unit, they actually have another option in Heartseeker, which only costs 1, which you can play instead. Now, again, all these cards are pretty much good. Bloodleech Mask, the only source of healing in the faction, combos all the Songhai spells. It allows you to actually run a very spell-heavy Songhai. Songhai is one of the few factions that is pretty healthy, running like 18 spells if they really wanted to. Depending on your deck build out. So that's very different from a lot of the other factions. So they have a lot of great spells that you can run and feel comfortable with. Ghost Lightning, great against Abyss decks. Most everybody else is just kind of okay. If you can cycle it more, it's pretty good. But this is kind of a card you're going to want to move in for Abyss matchups primarily, or if you're seeing lots of Jack's True Sight in the meta or in your matches, then this is a good card to run. Saberpunch Seal, awesome damage resource, either busts or use to deal more damage, or you can actually throw it on your general to deal damage. And even greater is you can actually use this early to actually clear out stuff like Silverguard Knight as a removal by giving up 3 health on your general. But slap this on, you got 5 damage all of a sudden, you can clear out that Silverguard Knight. Very good for the faction. Chakra Avatar, again, anything that works off of spells, just like Bloodleech Mask, gonna be super strong for the faction. He got bumped to a 1/2 in one of the recent patches not too long ago, so he actually has a little bit more survivability off of a few spells. It is just a very good, just kind of like burst, like build up unit, and it's really good for the faction. You can actually play it in later decks as well. Kaido Assassin is basically the quintessential cheap backstab unit for the faction. If you don't know what backstab is, basically if you're directly behind your opponent or an enemy minion, a general, you basically get whatever number is here. So in this case, you get 1 extra damage. You do 4 damage base, and they actually don't get to strike you back, which means that if I'm behind your general and I hit you with this, your general doesn't strike back and this doesn't die. It also works against minions, so it's actually really good for board control. If you can position it correctly, it'll actually get free trades off and can actually get a lot of value out of a simple card like this. Mist Dragon Seal. Now this is a card that just works with everything in the faction. High mobility in the Songhai faction, which is kind of one of their big strengths. And this card gets ++1, moves you to any space on the board. It works with Chakra Avatar. Let's say you buff it, you can get it in after hiding in the backlines. Kaido Assassin, you can hide that in the backlines, then bring it in to backstab a minion or a general and buff it up in the process. So actually a very good combo card for the faction with its minions and with backstab specifically as well. It can also get units out of range of around provokes to get hits in when they're locked up otherwise. Phoenix Fire, this is bread and butter card, 3 damage. Now you can use the 3 damage on the general, but a lot of cases in the early stage you're going to use it to clear out some high priority minions that you need to get rid of. Otherwise, late game you can toss it in there at the general for that last kind of finisher damage if you really need it. It also triggers with Bloodleech Mask to deal more damage to the general as well. So overall, just a really good core efficient card for the faction. You're going to see that a lot, and it's great basic cards. So definitely throw 3 of those in your deck.